Working with diverse populations often comes with a quiet anxiety. Before you even walk into a client's room, you might worry about saying the wrong thing, making a bad assumption, or accidentally committing a microaggression. It's easy to fall into the competency trap, believing you need encyclopedic knowledge of every culture and religion on Earth to provide good care. You can let that go. You do not need to be the expert on every culture, because the client is the expert on their own experience. Your role is to approach each person with curiosity and respect. To do this, we use a 3-step operational framework: managing your implicit bias, mastering language and identity protocols, and accommodating daily cultural needs. Shifting from mastery to a lifelong practice of humility takes the pressure off you. It allows you to focus on the person in front of you, which is the necessary starting point for building a safe clinical relationship. Culturally responsive care is a legal requirement. The foundation for this mandate goes back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited discrimination in any program receiving federal funds. Decades later, Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act expanded those core protections to explicitly include gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability. Even with these laws in place, well-intentioned staff can still miss the mark because of implicit bias. These are the unconscious shortcuts our brains make, and they spike when you are tired, stressed, or rushing through a shift. This chart highlights the difference between equality and equity. Equality means treating everyone identically, which ignores the systemic deficits some clients start with. Equity means distributing resources based on actual need to level the surface. The most effective way to counter bias in the moment is physical. Slow down. Take a breath before you react, and actively look for information that makes this specific client an individual rather than a stereotype. Acknowledging a client's differences, rather than erasing them through a colorblind approach, is the first step towards closing the gap in health disparities. Step 2 focuses on intake. This is where language barriers create the highest risk. Never fall into the helpful roommate trap. You cannot use other clients or untrained staff to translate. For all clinical and legal interactions, you must immediately utilize a professional digital, telephonic, or in-person interpreter. The next critical piece of intake data is self-identification of gender and sexual orientation. You cannot determine a person's gender identity, orientation, or religion just by looking at them. The rule here is simple: always ask and always respect how they self-identify. Use a client's chosen name and pronouns consistently. If you slip up and misgender someone, you not get defensive. Briefly apologize, correct the pronoun, and immediately move on. You also have a strict obligation to protect this information. Never out an LGBTQ+ client to other clients or unauthorized family members. Doing so directly endangers their safety. Securing professional language access and respecting self-identified pronouns are non-negotiable actions. They remove the primary barriers to communication, creating the space where clinical trust can begin to develop. Step 3 is adapting daily facility operations. You are required to accommodate a client's voluntary religious practices and fulfill specific dietary needs, including halal, kosher, and vegetarian meals. This diagram shows how parts of a person's identity, like race, age, language, and gender, slide together to shape their lived experience. This is intersectionality. Notice the overlapping center. A client is never just one thing. Facing multiple forms of discrimination creates compounded clinical stressors. We see this clearly with historical trauma. This photograph of a Native American boarding school documents a systemic policy of cultural erasure. Understanding that history helps explain why an Indigenous client might arrive with deep, understandable distrust of Western medical institutions. Adapting daily care to honor these complex, intersecting realities helps you avoid misdiagnosing cultural expressions of distress, and it keeps vulnerable clients engaged in their recovery. To recap, pause to manage your implicit bias, mandate professional interpreters while respecting identity, and say yes to daily cultural accommodations. You don't have to carry this all in your head. Use your Emond Healthcare Quick Reference card on the floor to maintain these standards, guided by the reminder that the client is the expert. You will still feel moments of discomfort or uncertainty. That is a normal part of the lifelong practice of cultural humility. Relying on this framework ensures your care stays consistent. These actions are the building blocks of the therapeutic alliance. When a client feels seen and understood, rather than ignored or mislabeled, they are significantly more likely to remain engaged with their treatment over time. Executing these 3 steps transforms eMend Healthcare from a merely compliant facility into a genuinely inclusive environment, successfully putting the client's reality at the absolute center of their care.